work, unless you work in an organization where you're all very close and buddy-buddy, like brothers and sisters, it's better to always keep that distance so that you're seen professionally and that you always remember that in any given case, you really are a professional. So get your sura ya kazi on. One thing about being professional and also being perceived as professional is how you speak. If you speak formally, you'll find yourself in a very good situation. Always be formal at your workplace or at your business place. Refer to people as Mr. and Mrs. or by their official titles as much as possible. Also, when it comes to clients, if you're running a business, refer to them as sir or madam. Try to minimize a casual and laid-back attitude at work or at business, where everybody speaks to each other in a casual, laid-back way. Because sooner or later, unprofessionalism will creep in and people will begin to lack respect for each other and even for you. And they will lack respect for your organization. Therefore, how you speak matters. How you walk is another aspect of how professionally you will be perceived to be. If you walk in a slouchy way, in a way that seems like you're not always busy or you're not in a hurry to go anywhere, or in a way that makes you look slack and lazy, you will be construed as a most unprofessional person. Walk briskly, walk tall, walk straight, and walk with a purpose. Another aspect of being professional, and it's very important and something that you really need to learn to control, is your facial expression. Be as inscrutable as possible, like the Orients. Let nobody know your feelings from your face. If, for example, you've been given a tongue lashing, you should not go around looking bitter or wearing a long face all over the place, because this will hurt your career prospects. Learn to be inscrutable. Don't sneer, don't leer or make some really funny facial expressions, which will definitely set you back. And at the same time, they make you look really, really awful and, not to mention, unprofessional. And finally, control what comes out of your mouth, your verbal speech. Think before you speak. Ask yourself before you say anything, is it necessary? Is it thoughtful? And is it kind? If it's none of those things, don't say it. This has been Self-Care Tips, talking about how to get your whole professional act together. I am Irene Joroge.
You know what time it is, right?
Rapper Calligraph Jones has released his third studio album dubbed Invisible Currency.
OG is OG because of the currency that I have is invisible.
A lot of people, including myself, got to that place yenye Mungu kweli anatusikianga tukiomba, and people give up. Yeah, and unfortunately we are that generation. It happens if it's not happening tuendele.
The annual festival, which happens every March, celebrates the cultural diversity in the university community, where they showcase and experience food, music, dress, and language of the various represented cultures. African rappers, you need to get up on your feet, rap your people, you say you home.
Ili kupata huo ni upendo, kama sikiza tune kwenye simu yako, bonyeza *811 *817#.
Sio lazima uwe na hela nyingi ama uwe tajiri mkubwa, uwe na fedha nyingi ndio uweze kumsaidia mtu. Hapana, kidogo utakachopata ama kidogo ulichonacho, mgawie. Mfanye mwingine pia afurahie. Umpatie tabasamu.
Kupata huo ni upendo, kama sikiza tune, bonyeza *811 *817#. *811 *817#.
Are you an aspiring candidate in the upcoming general elections? Do you want your agenda and manifesto to reach your voters effectively? At KBC, we have the most comprehensive and credible online platform that has profiles of all prospective candidates. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants and let Kenyans know more about you, your past achievements, your manifesto, and your development agenda once you get elected to office. What's more, the website is easy to navigate. We will create your profile, post pictures and short videos with your campaign messages at affordable hosting fees. Log on to www.kbc.co.ke/2022 aspirants today and establish your brand authority as we lead towards the forthcoming general elections.
It's 9 p.m. East African time. This is KBC Prime Edition, bringing you the eye on the news this Monday, the 21st day of March 2022. Good evening. My name is Mboya. Ahead in this program. Two dead following bandit attack. Security now beefed up in Elgeyo, Marakwet.
We do not need cell phones in examination centers, except 2 cell phones for emergency purposes.
Only examination center managers and a security officer to be allowed to have phones. This in a new move to curb exam fraud. We are with you, government assures hunger-stricken families. Welcome to the program, our social media platform at KBC Channel 1, my Twitter handle at Tomboya24, and our hashtag Prime Edition. Anne Wangeshi is in charge of our sign language docket. Straight to our top story. Security has been beefed up in Elgeyo Marakwet after 2 people were shot dead while 7 others were seriously injured when armed bandits raided Kitiala location Sunday. Speaking after he met security agencies in Laikipia County, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner Mohammed Maalim pledged the government's commitment to ensure that peace prevails in the Kerio Valley. Ben Chumba opens our coverage with that security update.
On Sunday, raiders struck Koitilian location in Marakwet West Sub-County, leaving 2 people dead and 7 others nursing serious injuries. The bodies of victims have since been taken to Iten Referral Hospital mortuary, while those injured are receiving treatment at Iten Sub-County Hospital and Moi Teaching and Referral Hospital, Eldoret. During the attack, the raiders vandalized shops and motorbikes before stealing over 600 cows.
Close to 200 bandits, all of them armed and spraying people with bullets in a center, spraying everything, shops, and it is near Koitilial Secondary School, Koitilial Vocational Training Center, Koitilial Primary, and the irrigation scheme.
Being the latest attack in the wake of another one on Saturday, where animals were also stolen, leaders and residents have condemned the act, calling upon the government to act swiftly to contain the insecurity menace and curb wanton loss of lives and property.
Sasa ni miezi miwili imepita. Matiangi hatujaona watu wako wakifanya kazi. Ila kwamba ng'ombe wenye wamechukuliwa wanaenda kwa wapi?
We don't know how powerful these guys are. Mr. President, please tell us if these guys are more powerful than the government. Let us get to know.
Hours after the attack, Rift Valley Regional Commissioner says security has been restored. While meeting security agencies from Laikipia County in Rumuruti town, Maalim called for cooperation between local communities and government agencies in tackling issues of insecurity in the region.
We want to see prompt response on the part of our security agencies. They have been doing very well, but we want to see more response. Possible create even a buffer zone between the Tiati and the Marakwet.
Let's now move into education. Only 2 phones will be allowed within an examination center as part of the enhanced government efforts to curb examination malpractice. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha says that only the examination center manager and 1 security officer will be allowed to have their phones within the centers as the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education examinations entered the second week. Wycliffe Okech reports.
Professor George Magoha was in Kisumu to inspect the ongoing KCSE exams that have now entered the second week. Magoha assuring KCSE candidates of an even competition ground as he rubbished some media reports that claim some papers of the ongoing exams had leaked.
A leakage in an exam means that you have the paper way ahead of the process, several days or even a month before, like used to happen. When our children are already in the classroom, the people who are breaching the integrity of this exam, and they are very few, they are doing so to justify the money that they have collected from stakeholders who don't value their children. And I don't think they are going anywhere. And when I give you my own assurance as the head of the education sector in this country that the examination has not leaked, take it to the bank.
And as part of the enhanced efforts to curb exam malpractice, the CS said only the exam center manager and 1 security officer will be allowed to have their phones within an examination center for emergency purposes.
We have now come to a very painful conclusion that we do not need cell phones in examination centers, except 2 cell phones for emergency purposes. 1 that shall be with the head, with the center manager, and another one with 1 of the security men. Reason being, there could be something that is interactive, a child may fall sick, and there may be need for communication. But for all the other mortals like myself, and vigilance and supervisors, and the other security people, they will leave their cell phones at home. They don't need them.
He reiterated the need to have the candidates write the examination devoid of any interference. Meanwhile, CS Magoha said KCP exams marking exercise is almost complete, with the results likely to be out later this week.
In terms of the marking process of the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, we are doing extremely well. We are about to complete the composition and insha, and we have no doubt that, subject to the availability of His Excellency the President, we should be able to give you the results either later this week or at the very latest early next week.
The candidates on Monday wrote mathematics and biology papers, with Kiswahili and religious education papers lined up for Tuesday. Wycliffe Okech, Prime Edition from Kisumu County.
Let's look at the drought mitigation efforts. The government has defended its handling of the drought situation, saying that all intervention measures are serving their purpose. State Department for Social Protection Principal Secretary Nelson Marwa says that no Kenyan will succumb to the effects of drought, dismissing claims of indifference. British Gatonya reports.
For months, millions of Kenyans have had to put up with the unforgiving wrath of Mother Nature. The drought situation has driven many to the edge, with some forced to depend entirely on the government for subsistence. The government says the intervention has provided many Kenyans a lifeline, and a lot more is being done to cushion them further.
Hybrid kind of effort that is being rolled out to mitigate the impact of drought. Hybrid in the sense that In December last year, we rolled out cash transfer, and like the PS has mentioned, although there are material challenges here and there, and it's in his own wisdom, the head of state did, decide that there must be another intervention, so that no Kenyan can be able to die on account of lack of food. So the hybrid is cash transfer and physical food distribution.
In the last couple of weeks, some leaders have raised concern that the presence of the state was not being felt by those affected by drought. But in a rejoinder, State Department for Social Protection Principal Secretary Nelson Marwa said no Kenyan will lose their life to drought and that more help is coming.
There is a lot that the government is doing to ensure that in the long run, Turkana should be self-reliant, Marsabit should be self-reliant, Tana River should be self-reliant, so that we don't need to send food there.
National Disaster Management Authority Director Technical Services Lesayana Lembara said for the long-term interventions, the government is working towards developing water infrastructure in order to deal with chronic water shortage, sustainable livelihoods, among others.
We are looking at the livelihoods and the adaptability in terms of the production. We know the climate change is real. So in terms of if the precipitation is reducing over years, and the climate information is providing that, then what adaptive mechanisms do we put in place for the local livelihoods to be able to flourish?
23 ASAL counties are experiencing drought due to failed rainfall, and some 2.8 million Teach Prime Edition.
Well, our coverage of the election preparedness continues with less than 5 months to the general election. Many saying that time to avoid past mistakes is running out tonight. The government is giving an assurance that all measures have been put in place to ensure safety during the August general election. Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i says that critical election reference material, including the election management security plan, the standards operating procedure for peace as well as security, have been developed and distributed to relevant teams. Additionally, more security officers have been recruited, with more equipment procured to beef up security during the national exercise. Matiang'i made the remarks when he met development partners right here in Nairobi, Kenya.
And our meeting is held in the context of fostering those relations and ensuring that we work very closely with our development partners. And when there are issues to be discussed or issues to be raised, including on how we are preparing ourselves for the general elections, we are able to be forthcoming and forthright with our partners and respond to them effectively as we have done this morning.
Let's tie that report with politics, and Safina Party has endorsed businessman Jimmy Wanjigi as its presidential candidate. Wanjigi now says the forthcoming election will be about putting an end to the old order and economic liberation. Deputy President William Ruto was chief guest at the event. JJ Kioria reports.
The hundreds of delegates of the Safina Party converged at the Bomas of Kenya to endorse the businessman who until last year was operating in the shadows as its presidential candidate.
Kenya. So help me God. So help me God.
Dubbing the upcoming elections as a Nitweka moment to mean a generational change, Wanjigi called for an end to the old order, which he claims has impoverished Kenyans.
We are ushering in Itweka, a break from the old order of personalities, positions, and unmitigated greed for power. It is our resolve to give our country a different leadership, to cement a progressive, irreversible gains in our governance and institutional arrangements.
Wanjigi says he seeks to introduce new leadership in the country that would empower millions of jobless Kenyans.
Out of 17 million employed Kenyans, 17 million, munashika hiyo, only 79,000 earn 100,000 shillings a month. 100,000 shillings a month. That is less than $1,000. Ulimwengu.
Deputy President William Ruto, who was a chief guest in the event, reiterating the call for the economic liberation of the country.
Our competitors believe this is a constitutional moment. We believe, together with Safina, that this is an economic moment in the history of our country.
Multi-party hero Paul Mwite, who is a Safina party leader, pledged to lead his party to working with Ruto's UDA and Kenya Kwanza as champions of economic freedom.
That when Safina wins, the president said, we will invite you and UDA to come to the serikali pamoja.
Those who are fighting us believe that it is their privilege to rule over Kenya, that we are slaves, like we are rent seekers, and we must be remaining very grateful that they gave us an opportunity to serve. We want to tell them no.
John Jacob Curia, Prime Edition.
Maendeleo ya Wanawake organization is calling on the government to intensify the fight against illicit brew to save young people and potential leaders from alcoholism. The organization's national chairperson, Mboya, says parents are now being forced to offer care for their alcoholic children who should be the ones taking care of them. Zainab Said reports.
Speaking during the organization's 70th celebrations in Thika, Kiambu County, Maendeleo ya Wanawake Organization National Chair Mboya regretted that alcohol is becoming a burden to aging parents.
This alcoholism, Bwana Governor, has robbed us of our sons at a very early age. It has denied our children the chance of being fathers and companionship because they cannot sustain their marriages.
Mboya pointed out that the menace has robbed Kenya of energetic sons at a very young age and has denied youngsters a chance to enjoy fatherhood.
Siku hizi tunaambiwa wasichana wa miaka 9 na 10 ati ni wamama wa kupata watoto. Lazima tuikatae with the energies we have.
The organization called on the government to assure women aspirants of their security ahead of the general elections, pointing out that recent campaign events have recorded disrespect and intimidation against women.
We must respect the dignity and the integrity of women in leadership. That women will not be used as sexual instruments.
Kama unataka urais, heshimu hiyo kiti, sababu ukikalia utahitaji heshima. Tena tuelewe, hakuna mtu atahama Kenya, na kiti itakaliwa na mtu. Kumbuka heshima sio utumwa.
Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kibicho, who was present at the event, assured Kenyans that the government is keen on ensuring the campaigns are peaceful.
In the ministry, we have made sufficient arrangements, as we are aware, when the government started the multi-agency forum, where we have brought all institutions that are concerned with election into the same room to discuss about our preparedness.
For Prime Edition, I'm Zainab Said.
Now, the Ministry of Environment has today signed an MOU with Green Blue Africa Foundation and other partners to restore and conserve 10 acres of land on the Ngong Hills. 1,000 trees were planted by representatives from both the private as well as the public sector and the Kenya Forest Service officers in commemoration of the International Day of Forests. Farah Yusuf reports.
Kenya has joined the world in celebrating the International Day of Forests by planting some 1,000 trees at the Ngong Hills.
From where you're seeing the work, this has all been a partnership.
The Ministry of Environment signed an MOU with Green Blue Africa Foundation and other entities to restore 10 acres of this land by planting and growing the trees planted here.
Ni lazima tupande tuone 99% ya miti iko na community. Ningependa kuambia tuko na jukumu kubwa. Kwa sababu miti hiyo kufaulu, miti hiyo kusimama, ni majukumu yetu kuhakikisha kwamba mifugo haijavunja na kuharibu. Sote tuwajibike.
Chief Conservator of Forest Julius Kamau said the restoration of the 10 acres has commenced and called for concerted efforts in protecting nature for the current and future generations.
So far, about 166 participatory forest management plans have been developed, and also we have been able to sign 115 forest management agreements between the Kenya Forest Service and the community.
We must be able to give this community a reason why they will see a tree as a valuable property. You promote their livelihood.
We should be able to ask ourselves what we have done from the lowest to the highest levels of governance, as the ordinary people, as the leaders, as even the students. What have we done to increase the forest cover?
The 1,000 trees planted here today bring Kenya a step closer towards achieving the 10% forest cover, which is currently standing at 8.8%. Yusufar reporting for Prime Edition from Ngong Hills, Kajiado County.
Very well. Many aspects of our lives, of course, are linked to the forest. Drinking a glass of water, writing on a piece of paper, and even handing over a business card. Talking of drinking a glass of water, taking a short break. When we come back, we have a lot more coming up. So stay with us.
Harambe! 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 Na mashamba yetu harambe! Na mifugo yetu harambe! Na serikali yetu tukufu harambe!
Nilipoanza kukohoa, kuhisi maumivu kwa kifua, uchovu mwilini, joto jingi mwilini, kutokwa na jasho jingi usiku, kukosa hamu ya chakula na kupoteza uzito haraka. Nilipimwa hospitalini, kabainika nilikuwa na TB.
Nilianza matibabu ya TB mara moja. Nilimeza dawa zangu bila kukosa kwa muda unaofaa, kama nilivyoshauriwa na daktari.
Ugonjwa wa TB sio uchawi. Mtu yeyote yule anaweza kupatwa na ugonjwa huu, lakini ukimeza dawa vizuri, TB inatiba.
Nilitibiwa TB, nikapona na niko sawa.
TB inatiba. Pata matibabu bila malipo katika hospitali zote za umma. Tujijali, tumalize TB. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako na Wizara ya Afya na washirika wake.
Log on to the KBC website at www.kbc.co.ke to get the latest breaking news, entertainment, sports, politics, lifestyle or business trends from Kenya and around the world. Never miss new episodes from your favorite TV shows, reruns and movies. Just stream online or watch live on your YouTube channel at KBC Channel 1 TV shows. For the day's biggest stories, trustworthy news and family entertainment, log on to KBC Channel 1. Watch what you want anytime, anywhere.
Hey, you know what time it is, right?
Rapper Calligraph Jones has released his third studio album dubbed Invisible Currency.
OG is OG because of the currency that I have is invisible.
A lot of people, including myself, go to that place yenye Mungu kweli anatusikianga tukiomba and people give up. Yeah, and unfortunately we are that generation. It happens if it's not happening tuendelee.
The annual festival, which happens every March, celebrates the cultural diversity in the university community, where they showcase and experience food, music, dress and language of the various represented cultures.
African
rappers, you need to get up on your feet, rap your people, your city, your home.
Welcome back to the program. Our coverage of the COVID situation continuing with the positivity rate now standing at 0.3%. That coming up shortly, but first, over 50 students of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology have been left homeless after the apartment that they were living in was brought down after it developed cracks. The students lost their belongings and are currently being hosted at the institution's hostels. One student is said to have sustained minor injuries. Well, moving on, as I indicated, the COVID-19 positivity rate in the country now stands at 0.3% after 8 people tested positive for the virus over the last 24 hours. The cases are from a sample size of 2,727. The positive cases comprise of 4 Kenyans and 4 foreigners. Nairobi reported 5 cases, while Mandera, Meru, and Mombasa counties reported a case each. 15 patients recovered from the disease, with total recoveries hitting 317,506. Cumulative fatalities remain at 5,647, and no death was reported over the last 24 hours. A report from the Ministry of Health indicates that a total of 17.3 million vaccines have been administered across the country. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, 470 million COVID-19 infections have been confirmed globally so far, while 6 million deaths have been reported. Now, a China Eastern Airline passenger plane carrying 132 people has crashed in southern China shortly after losing contact with the air control traffic. There was no immediate confirmation of the number of casualties, but the disaster prompted an unusual swift public reaction, with President Xi Jinping calling for investigators to determine the cause of the crash. Brian Windy with more on this update.
Comment on the crash or respond to queries after the passengers plane with 132 people on board crashed in a forested hillside in southern China. The airline has, however, grayed out its logo on its Weibo account and also changed its website to black and white as a sign of mourning, the local media reported. China's Civil Aviation Administration said it has also dispatched its investigators to the scene, but it is feared that there are no survivors. Flight MU 5735 left Kunming at 11 minutes past 1 p.m. local time and was scheduled to arrive in Guangzhou at 5 minutes past 3 p.m. Flight tracking sites report that the plane was in the air for just over an hour and was nearing its destination when it went down at Guangzhou. The disaster has prompted an unusually swift public reaction from President Xi Jinping, who said he was shocked and has ordered for an immediate investigation into the cause of the accident. For Prime Edition, I am Brian Mwindi.
Well, I'll take that story that we read earlier on, where 50 students of Jomo Kenyatta University of Agriculture and Technology have been left homeless after the apartment that they were living in, as I mentioned, was brought down. It had developed cracks. The students there lost their belongings, and they're currently being hosted at the institution's hostels. One student is said to have sustained some minor injuries. Here now is that report.
The 5-story building located at Juja area of Kiambu County is said to have developed cracks on Sunday morning after a sewerage system was dug inside 2 weeks ago, weakening its foundation. Children are said to have alerted the occupants of the building of the danger lurking in their midst, leading to immediate evacuation.
Ilianza tu crack, watoto ndio walikuwa wanacheza wakaona, wakasikia nyumba kuna vile ilikuwa inatoa sauti fulani. Watoto ndio waliambia watu nyumba inabomoka. Kukuja yenyewe tukadhibitisha ilikuwa inarusha mchanga kidogo kidogo, na kuna sauti pia ilikuwa inatoa.
Hours later, the building was brought down safely by officers from the National Building Inspectorate in collaboration with county engineers. The occupants of the building, mostly students from JKUAT, watched helplessly as their belongings were reduced to rubble. According to one of the students, only a female student whose door was locked suffered minor injuries as she struggled to leave the house through the window. Affected students have been hosted inside the institution hostels, with efforts ongoing to help them start life afresh.
Somebody like me now, I'm left with nothing, but I get to continue with my studies in JKUAT. So my 6,740 yenye nimepewa sai as a deposit, in real sense haitanisaidia juu I have nothing. I have no clothes, sina chakula, I don't have that place to spend in.
Every student who resided or who is residing in this building amepoteza kila kitu yake. It cannot be recovered, and we are looking forward towards ensuring that these students, they will not start from zero, and we are calling upon every stakeholder, and we wish to upon at this moment to approach the Governor Nyoro, MP Koimburi, the MCA, Kamrej, to come and assist us in whatever way they can.
The increase in such cases has been blamed on greedy developers, hiring unqualified contractors and failing to follow requisite building processes. Nassir Kware, Prime Edition.
Corridors of Justice, a middle-aged man has been released on a 2 million shilling bond after denying 2 counts of exams malpractice. Oscar Brighton was found in possession of examination materials in a mobile phone that related to the 2021 KCPE and KCSE exams unlawfully.
Oscar Brighton, before Chief Magistrate Wendy Micheni, the former university student, was accused of exam fraud. It's alleged that on diverse dates between the 7th of March 2022 and the 10th of March in Nairobi, Oscar was arrested with a phone that contained the contents of papers for the Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education with unlawful authority. The case will be mentioned on the 28th of March 2022. Elsewhere, a former Mandera County government driver convicted of aiding suspected Al-Shabaab militia to kidnap 2 Cuban doctors in Mandera in 2019 will be sentenced on Wednesday. The trial magistrate Martha Nanzushi on Monday deferred the sentencing to the 28th of March owing to the absence of the state counsel and the driver's lawyer.
We are deferring because both the state counsel is not present and counsel for the accused person is not present. The judgment is ready, the sentence is ready. See you on the 23rd.
The kidnapping also caused the death of a police officer, Mutundo Katambo, from the Critical Infrastructure Protection Unit at Mandera East, who had been deployed on escort duties of the 2 doctors. And finally, the Anti-Corruption Commission case facing the former Principal Secretary of the Youth, Lilian Amolo, and 36 others has been adjourned to Friday, 25th March due to sickness of one of the accused persons. The trial magistrate, Eunice Nyotu, allowed the application for adjournment after she was informed by defense counsel that Evans Kundu was taken ill last week and was unable to attend the proceedings. The case involves 226 million shillings that was fraudulently paid to suppliers from the National Youth Service. Lynn Chalo for Prime Edition.
Now, Democratic Party presidential candidate Justin Muturi has called on opposing political camps to conduct peaceful elections despite their differences. Muturi, who met grassroots leaders in Meru, said that the race for elective positions should not be a do-or-die affair. This and more in our political stories.
The Speaker of the National Assembly, who is also the Democratic Party's presidential hopeful, has urged the political class to keep off politics of hate. Muturi, who was accompanied by Meru Senator Mithika Linturi, claimed politics must not divide the nation, even as he claimed his party was ready to engage other parties to form formidable political outfits.
Political competition is not enmity.
Wakati umefika ya mtu kutoka Mount Kenya East, tusimamishe mtu wetu, tuweze kungangana na wale wengine wa Mount Kenya West, na sababu Mheshimiwa Uhuru Kenyatta anaenda kustahafu, sisi tujue tunacheza namba gani. I said it in 2019
Meanwhile, ODM leader Odinga's spouse, Mama Ida Odinga, has urged youth in the country to shun violence during the electioneering period. Ida, who led Azimio la Kina Mama Brigade campaigns in Kajiado County, urged residents to support Raila's candidature, claiming he was the best bet for the nation.
Sisi wakina mama hatutaki watoto wetu wakufe kwa sababu ya elections. Kwa hivyo hatutaki ugomvi, kila mtu aseme sera yake, ukimpenda utampigia kura. Kama utaki usende kwa mkutano wake na usilete fujo huko.
Mimi nataka leo kuwaomba wana Jubilee kwamba tumeamua kwa pamoja ni Raila Amolo Odinga.
And the race to succeed Mandera governor has taken a new twist after former Yala legislator Aden Mohamed threw his heart into the race that has so far attracted over 5 gubernatorial hopefuls. Mohamed pledged to mitigate the perennial drought that has bedeviled the region.
Kwa sababu ni wakati ya ukame, mimi binafsi nimeamua ya kwamba tutatoa water boozer mbili kwa kila sub-county.
Meanwhile, a section of youth affiliated to Kasarani MP hopeful Ronald Karauri have called for fair nominations in the party primaries, whose deadline is on the 22nd of April. The youth, who regretted previous bungled party nominations, claimed the move has denied Kasarani residents the rightful leadership.
That's why we have decided, like youths, we'll take votes, we'll take our own votes in order for us to have a say in this election coming 8th of August, and we'll be able to vote.
Ndio maana sisi kama vijana leo tumekuja hapa na tumeamua ni Karauri ambaye tunaenda kumchagua, na ni Karauri ambaye tutaenda hata kwa hizo nominations tunaenda kumchagua.
Elsewhere, former female genital mutilation chairperson Agnes Pareyo has been endorsed by the Katala clan of elders to vie for Narok North Member of Parliament.
Naomba amani ili siasa ikiendelea na sisi tuendelee na kasi yetu ya kawaida.
For Prime Edition, I'm Gladys Mungai.
In the cabinet, he always rubbed the opposition the wrong way, seizing every opportunity to remind opposition leaders that the then ruling party KANU would rule for the next 100 years, wapende wasipende. In tonight's edition of the Cabinets, we dig into the life of KANU Mombasa Supremo, Sharif Nassir bin Taib.
Sharif Nassir bin Taib joined the Coast People's Party CPP led by Ronald Ngala in pre-independence Kenya. He would then move to the Kenya African Democratic Union KADU. When KADU was dissolved soon after independence, Sharif Nassir became the KANU's Mombasa branch vice chairman. In 1972, Sharif Nassir assumed the chairmanship of KANU in Mombasa following the death of Ronald Ngala. Nassir would later in 1988 contest the Mvita parliamentary seat and triumph over Mohamed Jahazi. He would retain the seat in the 1992 and 1997 elections. Nassir caught the eye of the then Vice President Daniel Arap Moi during the succession politics that ensued, fueled by a clique that did not want the Vice President to be the automatic successor of Mzee Jomo Kenyatta. Nassir, alongside Attorney General Charles Njonjo and Cabinet Ministers Mwai Kibaki, Julius Kiano, Gigi Kariuki and Stanley Oloitip-Tip stood by Moi. When Moi ascended to power in August 1978, Nassir's closeness with the president became evident. However, it would be years before Nassir was appointed as cabinet minister, instead serving as assistant minister in many ministries, including information and broadcasting, environment and natural resources, lands and settlements, labor, commerce and industry, finance, national guidance and political affairs, and home affairs and national heritage.
Upenda mtukufu rais, na kama iko pahali pengine katika Kenya unapendwa zaidi,
labda siji kama tutapata kikombe namba 1 au namba 2 sijui, lakini tukupenda kwa sababu wewe mwenyewe wajua we are loyal to you, na hatugeuki hata azuke nani shetani gani.
As Assistant Minister for Finance in 1983, Nassir is on record as having defended workers from arbitrary sacking. Although perceived as KANU's mouthpiece, Nassir would sometimes appear to speak at cross purposes with the president. This was evident in 1987 when President Moi suggested the removal of a clause in the party's constitution stipulating that any candidate that attained 70% of the votes in the primaries be declared elected unopposed. Some KANU heavyweights at the time called for Nassir's expulsion from the party, but he managed to get the backing of majority of members of parliament. In the 1997 elections, Moi would garner 63.4% of the presidential vote in the region, winning 18 of 21 parliamentary seats in the Coast Province, a win that was attributed to Sharif Nassir's efforts. Following the cabinet reshuffle of 1999, Nassir was handed the Home Affairs docket. Sharif Nassir always rubbed the opposition the wrong way, seizing every opportunity to remind opposition leaders that the then ruling party KANU would rule for the next 100 years, quote-unquote, wapende wasipende.
Do you have a new story to share with KBC? Get in touch swiftly on email news@kbc.co.ke or call 0723-892-654 or 0734-780-124.
Welcome back. Let's now take a look at the latest in the world of business. My name is Carol Jenga. Kenya risks losing its international coffee market share to neighboring countries as production is projected to dwindle due to increased fertilizer prices. Players in the coffee sector say international coffee buyers have been contemplating sourcing for equivalent quality coffee from the region as Kenya's production is inconsistent and low, with this year's projection pointing at reduced production from the previous year.
Kenya's coffee production over the years has been averaging 40,000 metric tons, a decline from a high of 100,000 metric tons from the previous decades. Last year, Kenya earned approximately 24 billion shillings from coffee exports between January and November, eclipsing the entire 2020 earnings that stood at 22 billion shillings. Players in the sector say the good prevailing coffee prices are as a result of calamities in Brazil and Colombia and tensions in Ethiopia, and soon prices will fall as the three countries' production stabilizes.
We've been enjoying some good prices in the market, which basically are not because of any major fundamental, but because of what has been happening globally.
Because if we don't apply fertilizer, for example, this season, then we'll not have coffee. And we are already crying that we don't have enough coffee.
To enjoy economy of scales, small coffee holders have been encouraged to amalgamate their produce and create modalities for direct sales that has seen Kipkelion District Cooperative earn 116 million shillings for their 134.4 tons of coffee beans exported to South Korea.
Must start producing coffee from an average of at least 5 kgs as the minimum, going to an average of 7.5 to around 10, so that then it can be able to make some economical sense.
This as East African countries have been encouraged to come up with harmonized price mechanism to ensure the region's tea fetch more at international markets.
Improve the tea productivity and quality aspects of Uganda so that we could also, come up, because tea plays a vital role in the Ugandan tea economy.
Benson Ruba reporting for Prime Edition.
Treasury Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatani is set to deliver the budget statement to Parliament on 7th of April, as opposed to the traditional June, owing to political timelines in the country. Kenyans now have until close of business tomorrow to share their proposals on policy and tax measures for the budget statement for the full year 2022-2023.
Kenya's budget is traditionally presented to the National Assembly in June by the Treasury Cabinet Secretary. As it has become the norm every election year, the timelines have been moved up to April 7th, 2022, as the general election is set for August 9th, 2022. In a statement, Treasury said Kenyans have 1 day to share their suggestions on policy and tax measures for the full year 2022-2023 budget. The areas of focus include measures to enhance economic resilience, ways to improve livelihoods, how to fast-track implementation of the government's Big Four agenda, ways to enhance revenue mobilization, prudently manage public resources, and effectively deal with corruption, among others. Kenyans will be keen to see how the government handles the rising inflation that has forced many to dig deeper into their pockets owing to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. Debt management will also be a key point of concern, as the central bank shows that as of June 2021, Kenya's total debt stood at 7.7 trillion shillings. In the 2021-2022 financial year, Kenya's budget was at 3.03 trillion shillings.
Kenya is facing a major oral health problem that is affecting the country's health budget. This has been brought about by poor oral hygiene and an acute shortage of dental experts. Kenya has 1,400 dentists serving a population of more than 50 million people. Experts are now urging the government to upscale funding to the oral health subsector to stem the rising cost of disease on the Kenyan economy. The Ministry of Health allocates less than 0.05% of its annual health budget to oral health.
Oral health is fast becoming a major health concern in Kenya and proving to be a big burden to most households in the country. On average, 3 out of 4 children in Kenya suffer from gum bleeding due to poor oral hygiene practices, according to an oral health survey conducted by the Ministry of Health in 2015. Among the adult population, 98.1% had signs of gum disease, implying that there is a very high unmet treatment need for gum diseases in the country. A survey of the private hospitals in Nairobi revealed that the consultation fee ranges from 1,000 shillings to 2,000 shillings. In Kenya, 80% of these dentists are based in the large urban centers, leaving large segments of populations based in the rural areas grossly underserved, where tooth extraction costs between 3,000 shillings and 5,000 shillings, while filling costs 3,000 shillings to 6,000 shillings. KDA President Dr. Tim Theuri is urging the government to address the grossly underfunded oral health care services.
If I was to speak about UHC, we would like to see the government increase the UHC benefits package to include oral health, and this has been a neglected area. Whatever is there is not adequate. We appreciate what is there, but it's not adequate to cater for the oral health of Kenyans.
Experts say oral health care is capital intensive by its very nature, and therefore adequate financing is critical for its success. On average, Kenyan trains 60 dentists locally and abroad, 100 community oral health officers, and 70 dental technologists annually.
Kenyans are staring at higher food prices as global commodity prices soar. The price of oil have jumped to record levels while shipping lines and freighters have adjusted their charges upwards. Kenyans are now urging the government to come up with measures to cushion the vulnerable from the high cost of basic food items. Prices of milk, wheat flour, fertilizer and animal products have increased in the last 1 month due to the ongoing drought in Kenya and the conflict between Russia and Ukraine.
The fragile economy recovery in Kenya is now facing a major threat from surging global commodity prices due to high freight and shipping charges. In November last year, the United Nations Conference on Trade Development, UNCTAD, warned that the current surge in container freight rates, if sustained, could increase global import price levels by 11% and consumer price levels by 1.5% between now and 2023. But this was before the Russia-Ukraine conflict, which has upended the global logistical order. In Kenya, prices for major food items have climbed to a level near the heights of the global economic price crisis of 2010-2011. Rising food prices have a greater impact on low-income households, which spend more than 50% of their income on food.
The basic commodities, especially what we consume every day, the food, bread, wheat, rice, sugar, the prices are skyrocketing for us. And we haven't reached even elections. We don't know what's going to happen.
Kenyans are now urging the government to look into the surging food prices, as most of them are still recovering from the shackles of the COVID-19 pandemic.
The common mwananchi currently is really suffering, Oil shoots up every day, milk prices go up, flour prices go up. So as a Wanjiko, I would really urge the government to really consider some of the things that they are doing so that they can cater for every other person who earns less than $1 every day.
The Food and Agricultural Organization is warning that the current surge in freight rates will have a profound impact on the cost of basic items and undermine socio-economic recovery, especially in developing countries. Ndusamo Kame for Prime Edition.
Well, last but not least, tech companies want more of their peers to collaborate in climate change mitigation to ensure sustained efforts in combating carbon emissions in Kenya. Players in the space, many businesses still lack a prerequisite knowledge in environmental, social governance and sustainable business practices.
A report by the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization indicates that so far over 21,000 SMEs and individuals have benefited from programs that help position their businesses in a sustainable digital world. This is one of the steps towards mitigating against the challenges brought about by carbon emissions.
The whole ecosystem around electric mobility, right? And we're very happy to see government taking, for instance, initiatives that are making sure that the cost of electricity is intentionally going lower. Especially this provides a very strong and a stronger use case for people to transition more and more into electric cars.
We decided that we switch our goal to finance our riders to switch to electronic motorcycles so that we are able to save the environment, and at the same time also, as you see, fuel costs are rising, and it will also be unsustainable for them to have those bikes.
Players in the tech industry are calling for the creation of enabling legislation to guide social, economic and environmental impact areas. Lack of knowledge and understanding of sustainable goals among peers are some of the impediments to adoption of sustainable practices in the tech industry.
When you look at sustainability as a concept, a lot of people just limit it to environment. They talk about trees and plastic, but in real sense, there is a lot more. There's the governance, like I said, making sure you have proper systems and structures in your company and your business so that even the people you're with feel like they're taken care of.
Currently, the country is grappling with implementing sustainable goals. Players say organizations that are conscious of their social and environmental impact attract investors. Alanauko, Prime Edition.
And that is how we wrap up business news for tonight. Coming up next is a forex market report. We get to see how the shilling has been trading against other major currencies. And also later on, Richard Munga is on standby with a sports update. My name is Carol Jenga. Have a good night.
Presented by 10 athletes who participated in 5 races. Meanwhile, Ethiopia led the medal standings with 9 medals, that is 4 gold, 3 silver and 2 bronze. The US was second, while Belgium completed the top 3.
Reminiscent of Matt Centrovitz and his victory in Rio in 2016. But Ingebrigtsen just looking over to his side.
Kenya completed the event in the 22nd position after winning 2 medals, a silver and a bronze. Abel Kipsang won Kenya a bronze medal last night after finishing second in the 1500 meters race behind Samuel Tefera and Jacob Ingebrigtsen of Norway.
Teferi successfully defends the title. It's silver this time for the seemingly unbeatable Jacob Ingebrigtsen. And a brilliant bronze medal for Abel Kipsang.
The silver medal came from Noah Kibet, who finished second in the 800 meters race behind Mariano Garcia of Spain. African 100 meters record holder Ferdinand Omanyala bowed out after losing in the men's 60 meters semi-final, finishing outside the qualifying mark, settling for the 4th position in a time of 6.64 seconds. In the 3,000 meters race, Beatrice Chebet fought brilliantly in the first half, but ran out of the gas in second half, finishing at distance 10th, while Edina Jebitok took the 14th position. Daniel Simiu and Jacob Kiprop finished outside medal bracket in the 3,000 meters race men, completing the event in the 4th and 5th positions respectively. Ethiopia emerged top of the medal standing after bagging a total of 9 medals, 4 golds, 3 silver and 2 bronze medals, while United States finished second ahead of Belgium. Daniel Mwendwa for Prime Edition Sport.
It bodes well for
As always, thank you, Dan Mwendo, for that report. Now to other matters. National beach volleyball teams will leave the country Tuesday morning for Accra, Ghana, to take part in the Africa Commonwealth Games qualifiers.